So first of all, my name is Darren Finnegan. Thanks for joining for the Northeast Musculoskeletal Societies From Your Bed to Your Head. So obviously I'm the communications officer, and we have Laura. I'll let Laura introduce herself.
Yep. Hi everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Laura Richardson, and I'm the newly appointed sponsorship liaison officer. And really looking forward to tonight's event with two incredible speakers and learning lots from them. Throughout the event, would definitely encourage you to use the Q&A box as much as you can. Bob your questions in there, bob any discussion points, and then we'll relay those at the end of the presentations for our speakers to answer and discuss. Excellent.
So we have two great speakers, but Laura has done an excellent job getting them on to the talk tonight. So I hope everyone's looking forward to it as much as myself and Laura are. We're going to be talking a lot of issues about kind of sleep, obviously emotional intelligence, and then kind of performance hacks and tips to successful life, all in an hour and a half. So jam-packed evening. Obviously, as Laura mentioned, loads of questions, keep them coming, and then we'll have a short kind of interlude, and then kind of moving on to Graham's talk as well, and we should hopefully all be finished, wrapped up by 8:30. So we'll have 15 minutes Q&A at the end of each speaker. So without further ado, we got Jamie Watson. So on his Twitter handle, as every physio has to have a Twitter handle nowadays, is the pain guide. So he's a well-known kind of physio pain lead working out of North Tees and Hartlepool. He's a well-known speaker. Some people may know him and recognize him from the Northeast Pain Symposium and the Physio UK's recently after doing a talk down there. And for all the research nuts out there, he also has a paper with pain neuroscience education for adults. So check that out if you want to go and read some of his insights and research in the Journal of Pain. So without further ado, Jamie has kindly been able to navigate into a talk because I heard he has the worst sense of direction known to mankind.
It's true.
True. So I'll hand over Jamie to kind of to lead us from your bed to your head. Over to you.
Thanks very much, Darren and the rest of the NEMS team for organising this event. I really appreciate the opportunity to come and speak to you all and hopefully share some useful knowledge and skills about sleep, and especially for taking time out of your own busy lives to help organise NEMS and spread best practice across the Northeast. I've personally developed so much from attending the NEMS talks, and I'm thankful to be able to just give back this evening. So thanks very much for also everyone turning up. I've no idea how many people on the call, but yeah, nice that you've all taken the time out on a Tuesday evening. So I'll share my screen. I'll just move that. Cool. Right, we'll get started. So the learning objectives for this talk are to work through the importance of sleep for health and performance, to be able to conduct a basic sleep assessment in clinic, and really to provide you with some practical tips for improving both your sleep and your clients. So I'm going to try the Q&A box. So if you all just, or is it in the chat function? I'm not sure exactly what I'm doing here. If you all just type in the chat function, kind of how much sleep do you think that we need? Let's have a look as I then try and find the chat. I've now found the chat. So yeah, I can see 7 to 9, 8, a lot of 7 to 9s, a lot of 8s, 4 to 7. So a bit along the lower end, 6 to 8. Yeah, so we've got a bit of a contrast there. It's individual, very nice. Cool. So let's see whether you change your thoughts towards the end of this talk. So sleep and health, what is the story? Well, this was a massive review, a review of reviews, which included over 4 million participants from over 30 countries. And the authors concluded that there was an optimal sweet spot for sleep duration. And those kind of FIFA players among you will know how important it is to hit that sweet spot so you get that perfect strike on the ball. And this sweet spot appears to be between that 7 and 9 hour mark. Outside of this range, we're more likely to get a range of health issues, which are similar, interestingly, for both short and long-term sleep. So when we're short sleepers and long sleepers, our risk of mortality is higher, more likely to have cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, cognitive decline, and obesity. It's important to highlight that these are correlations, and therefore we cannot assume causality from this work. So with these limitations in mind, let's think about why it is when we fall outside this sweet spot, does health decrease? So poor sleep or shorter sleep is associated with vascular inflammation, increased hunger, and inability to process glucose and increased physiological stress, and thus may contribute to poor cardiovascular health, diabetes, obesity, and ultimately mortality. So in effect, short sleep equals poor health, or may equal poor health. Some authors have hinted that the association between longer sleep and poor health may be mediated by poor health itself, i.e. people who are ill sleep for longer, and they're also more likely to die, hence it's related to mortality. But more research is needed, and remember, this is all correlational research, and we cannot infer causality from this work. Let's look at some rather relevant research within our current global context. This study vaccinated 2 groups. One group slept the night after the vaccination, and the other group did not. Subjects who had a regular sleep the night after vaccination had nearly 2 times higher the levels of antibodies 4 weeks afterwards than those who stayed awake that night. So if in a few weeks' time there's a load of you thinking, well, I've got my COVID jab, I'm going to go out on the town and go for a big party, thinking you're superhuman, well, think otherwise you might end up in bed having a COVID party with your family. So the previous study found that sleep impacts antibody levels and production, but does it actually impact on if we become symptomatic with an illness? In this study, when people were exposed to the common cold, those who averaged 7 hours or less a night in the previous 2 weeks were 3 times more likely to develop symptoms than those that averaged more than 8. What about the relationship between sleep and injury? So this study looked at 112 adolescents tracked over 21 months. And we can see on the vertical axis, this is the likelihood of people developing injury over that 21-month period. And the athletes who slept on average less than 8 hours per night were 1.7 times greater risk of being injured than those who slept more than 8 or more hours. So you're almost twice as likely to get injured if you sleep less than 8 hours. So in an interview, Jeff Bezos says, I need 8 hours. I think better, I have more energy, my mood is better, and I make better decisions. And the science is broadly supportive of Jeff's experience here. So this study showed that sleep deprivation has a negative impact on attention, working memory, long-term memory, and decision-making. And this article at the bottom showed that sustained sleep deprivation, restricting it to just 4 hours a night for 12 nights, reduced optimism, sociability, and also increased generalized body pain. So we've looked at the impact that sleep can have on health and cognitive performance. But what about other areas of performance? So this was an absolutely fantastic study. and it looked at the impacts of restricting sleep on performance. And they split participants into 4 groups. One group was restricted to just 3 hours of sleep. The other group was 5 hours. The other group 7, and the last group was 9 hours. And they measured their performance daily over a 7-day period. And one of the absolute best things about this study was they actually recorded performance of participants during the task. So let's actually have a look.
If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball.
What?
Performance got gradually worse each day and showed no signs of leveling off over the 7 days. But what about the 5 to 7 hour group? Now, they actually performed at the same level. Let's have a look at what happened with those, with some actual real footage.
Good luck to you, Gordon. I want you to remember now that it's 90% mental.
If you can dodge traffic, you can dodge a ball.
You got it, Gordon. Come on.
I'm fine. I'm okay.
Okay, Dad.
So we can see that the 5 or 7 hour group, they still had some reactions, however, they were by no means perfect, and their performance rapidly decreased over the first few nights and then leveled off and stabilized at that level, but reduced level to baseline. What about the 9 hour group? Again, let's have a look at some real life footage. So we see their reactions were unbelievable, remained at baseline throughout the entire period. Let's have a look at the impact of sleep on learning. And this study compared the impact of learning a motor task with fingers, and then one group was allowed to sleep and measured the performance after that, whereas the other group didn't sleep afterwards. It was over that same period. And what they found was that sleep enhanced the accuracy and speed of performance compared to the same time being awake. So we can see that sleep improves speed and accuracy, whereas if we spend the same time awake, it does boost performance. There's something about practice with a night of sleep which makes rather than just practice. What about sleep extension studies? What do they show? Does sleep extension improve performance? Well, there's been several studies which have measured athletes with a few weeks baseline and then asked them to get 10 hours worth of sleep. And in all of these athletes' performance increased, their sprint time increased, their accuracy on basketball throw increased, the tennis service increased, they were less fatigued on the day. However, there was no control group in these studies, so we need to interpret with caution. And also, achieving 10 hours of sleep may just be unrealistic, as you pretty much spend half the day plus here. So let's have a little look at those mechanisms. One important mechanism which is important for our sleep is circadian rhythm. The term circadian comes from the Latin phrase circa deum, which means around a day. And circadian rhythms are 24-hour cycles that are part of our body clock, background carrying out essential functions, as well as keeping us happy. One of the most important is our cycle, and this of our body, our sleep wake rhythm, and our sleep wake rhythm are happy. One of the most important and well-known circadian rhythms is our sleep wake cycle, and this different systems of our body follow our sleep wake circadian rhythm, and our sleep wake circadian rhythm is driven by our master clock, which is in our brain. And you can think of this master clock a bit like a conductor. It's coordinating all of the bodily systems to help optimize the other peripheral body clocks within our body. Our master clock runs roughly a 24-hour cycle and syncs to the environment using environmental cues, especially light, which is why our circadian rhythm is tied to the day and night cycle. These circadian rhythms explain variance in alertness, performance across the day, with changes in hormone release, body temperature, all impacting on cardiovascular efficiency and muscle strength. Studies have shown that we're usually more coordinated at about 2:30 in the afternoon. We have better cardiovascular efficiency and muscle strength between 5 and 7 in the evening. So it may actually be helpful if you're wanting to go for those PBs to train at that time in the evening. So let's have a look at the impact of our sleep-wake circadian rhythm on sleep. Now, along the bottom is the horizontal axis, which is our hours in the day. And what I want you to look at here is the pink line, which is our urge to sleep. And we can see that our sleep urge, which is impacted by our circadian rhythms, it bottoms out at around 10 o'clock and then starts to climb again at about 2, which is when we all get that afternoon lull and blame that massive lunch, whereas it's probably just our circadian rhythm. It then starts to, our sleep urge tends to decline up until about 7 o'clock, and then it starts to climb up again. So the urge to sleep becomes greater. So I best start speaking quickly and finish these talks. Otherwise, we'll all be falling asleep on our computers. One of the other mechanisms which drives sleep is our pressure or need to sleep, which is this kind of purple bit here. And sleep need, or alternatively called sleep pressure, is impacted broadly by when we wake up, our sleep pressure starts to increase, and this pressure can be accelerated by doing mentally and physically demanding tasks. So these two mechanisms can go, circadian rhythm and sleep pressure, can go some way in helping us to understand why there is variation in requirements between individuals. Differences in lifestyle may impact on someone's circadian rhythm, perhaps with shift work, or what they do day to day may impact on their sleep need. For example, if they do lots of activity in the day, their sleep need or their sleep pressure may be greater, and therefore they may need more rest. Differences in our biology may then drive individual differences in our circadian rhythms. Some may be shorter, some are a bit longer. and also our ability to cope with sleep pressure. Plus, with many more individual differences, we can start to see how a one-size-fits-all approach doesn't work here, and that perhaps focusing on the quantity of sleep that we need may be unhelpful, and it may be more helpful to focus on the quality of sleep that we get. So focus on quality over quantity of sleep. We'll touch on why that's important very shortly in this talk. So what makes up sleep quality? Well, there are a few domains, but broadly, do you wake up feeling refreshed, or at least after that first 30-minute grogginess bit? Are you sufficiently alert not to be falling asleep at your computer, falling asleep driving to work? The other thing to think about is how efficient is our sleep? So when you're in bed, how much of that time do you actually spend asleep? If you spend 9 hours in bed and you've got 50% sleep efficiency, then you're really only sleeping for 4.5 hours. Sleep latency, so this is how long does it actually take you to get off to sleep? And also, how many times a night do you actually wake up? So these aspects or domains of sleep quality can be useful to help us work out or target our sleep interventions. If your sleep efficiency is really high, so you're getting into bed, your sleep latency is really short, you're falling asleep straight away, and actually you're not waking up at all, most of the time you're in bed, like 95% plus time you're in bed, you're asleep, and then you're waking up and you're still not feeling refreshed, maybe this is an indication that you're actually not getting enough quantity of sleep. And if it's feasible here, it may be worth you trying to experiment with extending that sleep. In contrast, if you're spending 9 hours in bed because you've heard that 9 hours is going to give you what you need for optimal performance, and it takes you ages to get off to sleep, but you're awake for 50% of this time, then it may be worth actually building up sleep pressure during the day. So actually doing more in the day or going to bed later, which can seem really counterintuitive, but it then means that you're less likely to get caught up in some unhelpful cycles, which we'll touch on very shortly. So now we understand a little bit more about sleep and the factors that make up sleep quality. Let's work through a basic sleep framework for a sleep assessment, and at the same time giving practical tips to improve sleep. So I like the TIRE approach. This is thinking, input, routine, and environment. TIRE. So let's look at thinking first. So a busy mind creates a restless body, and we can get into exhausting cycles with this. So this might look like, well, my therapist said I need 8 hours to be healthy. And then we start watching the clock. Oh, well, I've only got 6 hours left. I need to sleep now. And then we employ sleep effort. This could create anxiety because we can't sleep. We're trying to sleep. And this increases our physical arousal levels and actually reduces our sleep pressure. And then we might even have thoughts, I'm going to be so tired tomorrow. This creates more physical arousal. I'm not going to perform well tomorrow, more physical arousal. And we can see we can get caught up in these exhausting cycles. So if we change the story and it's a focus on quality over the quantity of sleep, then this may lead to a more restful cycle. My therapist said quality is more important than quantity. It's okay, I've only got 6 hours left. Quality is more important than quantity. Let's do my normal sleep routine and go to bed when I'm tired. Maybe I'll read, try some relaxation. Oh, I'm now feeling relaxed. I've got reduced physical arousal, increased sleep pressure, and now I'm actually ready for bed. Other strategies which can help is if we're constantly clock watching, turn the clock around. Setting aside worry time, but not just before bed. It's good to do that during the day. If we worry just before we go to bed, that can carry over during the evening. Other useful tips are to kind of use strategies to focus and occupy your mind. So this could look like some breath awareness. So 4, 7, 8. So breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 7 seconds, out for 8 seconds. 5 in, 5 out. So this is breathe in for 5 seconds and out for 5 seconds. There's a 3-2-1 technique. Have a look at retrainpain.org on their sleep section for more information on this. I'm not going to go through that. Count back in threes from 300, or perhaps sleep stories, listening to Calm or Headspace. The key is not to try them all the time. Pick one, try it for a week, see if it works for you, and if it's effective at stopping those exhausting cycles, great. If it's not, try a new one. One final part here is to help break that cycle is actually just try and stay awake. Instead of getting frustrated that you're not falling asleep, just try and stay awake, and it can take away that frustration. And also, by opening your eyes as wide as you can, it tires out your eye muscles and they start to feel heavy, and you can be more likely to fall asleep after that. So we've talked about thinking. Now let's think about input. What are we actually putting in our bodies? So we all know that stimulants like caffeine, nicotine, medications and other drugs can stimulate our bodies. But what impact do they have? Well, stimulants decrease sleep pressure. So what would that look like on our graph? Well, it flattens out the curve, and therefore our sleep need, our sleep pressure is less. And when our sleep pressure is less, it may take us longer to fall asleep, and then we can start to get into those cycles of why can't I sleep, why can't I sleep? We start to get frustrated. So we can see how what we put in our bodies can have an impact on our thoughts later on that day by impacting on the quality of our sleep. So yeah, longer sleep latency, we're more likely to wake up. And then if we've got other problems like pain, that may then, because we're then awake, that may then be a trigger for us to stay awake further and reduce sleep efficiency. So reduce your caffeine intake. It takes around 6 hours for the caffeine in your body to halve. So if you're having a cup of coffee at 5, 6 o'clock in the evening, at 12 o'clock, it's like you've just had half a cup of coffee. No one expects to sleep having just drunk half a cup of coffee. So try hot water or herbal teas, and certainly no caffeine after 12 noon. Reduce nicotine, again, it's a stimulant, it's going to reduce your sleep pressure. So sedation is not sleep. Whilst alcohol and other drugs can help you get off to sleep, they impact on the quality of your sleep. So try and avoid those. Avoiding big meals less than 2 hours before bed. So why? Well, our digestive system is one of our peripheral body clocks. And if we have big meals, it starts that body clock going and can impact on the quality of our sleep. Are you one of these people who wakes up and goes to the toilet multiple times in the night? Well, what's your fluid intake before bed? Are you drinking loads of water, drinking loads of tea before you go to bed, and therefore you need to empty your bladder a few times during the night? So if this is you, or if this is your patients, then try limiting fluid intake a few hours before bed. So we've thought about thinking, we've done input, and we're now on to routine. So I'll put a star next to this one. This is probably one of the most important things on here. If there's one thing that we try and encourage for good sleep hygiene, it's getting into a routine. Going to bed at the same time, waking up at the same time. And this helps sync your natural body clock to start to tell you to be tired when you want to be tired, and starts to set your clocks off to be awake when you want to be awake. The next part is physical activity. So physical activity increases sleep pressure. So what's that going to do to our curve? Well, it's just going to increase the steepness of our curve. So the impact of that may well be that our sleep latency is reduced, and we may actually want to sleep for longer. Our efficiency may increase as well. However, avoid vigorous activity too close to bedtime, as this can set off our peripheral muscle clocks. We've got muscle clocks as well, and this can make it harder again to get to sleep, our sleep latency, and can impair the quality of our sleep. So thermal dump, this is not what you think it is. It's actually just having a hot shower or a bath before you go to bed. It means that you dump heat, you get rid of heat from your body, which means that your core body temperature actually cools. And this is important. Our core body temperature needs to cool to help us sleep. So the next tip is tactical use of light. so inputting light into our bodies. So in the mornings, we want to expose ourselves to bright light to wake us up and to start our body clock. In the summer, it will be opening the curtains, looking at the sun. In the winter, as we are now, it might just be looking at bright light. You can get proper actual lamps which can simulate sunlight and really help provide a strong signal to your body clock that it's time to wake up now. So bright light in the mornings. In the evenings, avoid light. We want to avoid light, especially blue light. This is a strong signal again to our body clock to say it's morning. And obviously we don't want that in the evening, otherwise it's going to move our circadian rhythm later. So avoiding screens, using lamps, or even using sunglasses inside can be effective just to minimize that input of light into your eyes. Doing some relaxation or mindfulness can be a really important thing just to calm ourselves down as part of our routine. I was hoping to do a brief relaxation in here. I can see I've got about 2 minutes left, so unfortunately not. So make a bedtime routine. So it might look like start bedtime routine at 10. I set an alarm for 10 o'clock that goes off. Preparing for tomorrow starts today. Sleep. We have an alarm which wakes us up. Why don't we have an alarm which tells us to go to bed? We then brush our teeth because it's a bright light in the bathroom. We might then have a hot shower to thermal dump. We might do a to-do list for tomorrow in dim light. We might go to bed and read in dim light. And then we might use a 5 in, 5 out breath awareness to help calm us down and get us off to sleep. So we've done thinking, input, routine. Let's have a look at environment. The functions of a bedroom: sleep and sex only. We want to avoid TVs, iPads, social media, work laptops, partially due to screens, the light. And then also if we're starting to think about work in bed or thinking about social media or perhaps a really scary film, it can stimulate some thoughts and then we can get caught in these awkward cycles. So what you want to be doing is making your bed or your bedroom a hibernation station. Imagine you're a bear and you want to make it as comfortable and as nice as possible to curl up in and go and hibernate in your bed. And it's got to be not too hot, probably slightly cool because our body temperature needs to cool a little bit. It obviously our bed wants to be comfortable. You don't need to go and buy a super expensive mattress, but it wants to be comfortable enough for you, and that's for you. It's all individual. You want the room to be dark to avoid that strong signal to wake up. And it also wants to be relatively quiet. Sharp, loud, unexpected noises can wake us up. So we want to be avoiding those. Try and use blackout blinds, or if we don't have those, use a face mask. Or if it is loud, can we use earplugs to drown out the noise? Kind of finally, I can see that's my half an hour. I've got to set a timer. I think I've got a couple of minutes left. So I'll crack on unless they kick me off. So don't associate your bed with a place where you don't sleep. So if you're not falling asleep within roughly half an hour, well, if you do, great, you're asleep. If you don't, then get out of bed and only return when you're feeling tired. Build up that sleep pressure a little bit more. Change room, read under a dimmed light, maybe do some gentle stretches. So for people with pain, they usually wake up halfway through the night. And then because of their pain, they struggle to get back off to sleep. If we can get them to move a little bit and then start to calm down again, that can be really useful. We might listen to some relaxing music, try relaxation, and then return to bed when we're feeling sleepy. Naps, so keep them to 20 minutes or less. Otherwise, you enter deeper phases of sleep and you can start to feel more tired. Naps of even just 4 minutes have been shown to boost alertness. So if you haven't had a great sleep quality on the previous night, it can be useful to do a breath awareness, take a few breaths, shut your eyes for a few minutes, perhaps on that afternoon peak at around 2 o'clock, and that may boost your alertness for that day. but best not to have them after 4 o'clock, because we might not have enough opportunity to build sleep pressure, and this can then impact on our sleep latency, so it takes us longer to get off to sleep. So I'm not going to go too much into sleep diaries, but based on that TIRE approach and kind of the reason that we went through of those two mechanisms, the Sleep Council, which is a great website to look at, have produced some sleep diaries which you can hand out to your patients, and they then track their sleep over the week, and you'll be able to work out their kind of sleep time. You'll be able to see, did they feel refreshed afterwards, what factors might be disturbing their sleep, and then it also has, on the end of the day, it's like, what are they putting in their body, how much caffeine have they had any alcohol, did they do any exercise later on, so it can help us identify things within TIRE which we can then target our sleep hygiene with. So when to refer on, we've gone through some basic sleep hygiene, but there's always going to be people who this isn't sufficiently helpful for. So most of this is from the Sleep Council, again, when to see a GP. Asking yourself or your client questions like, do you think you're getting enough sleep, but you still feel exhausted the next day? You fall asleep mid-conversation or at work or during meals. You collapse when you laugh or experience strong emotions. You physically enact your dreams. You're lashing out, injuring yourself or others while asleep. Your partner or family members are regularly disturbed by snoring or sleep talking or sleepwalking. You thrash out a lot while you're asleep. There's unexplained damage to your home or missing food. You've been unaware you've been going for a midnight snack. You've changed your medication and you've noticed a change in your sleep there, or you're kind of regularly waking with night terrors. All of these things are indicative of underlying sleep disorders and may warrant or likely warrant a referral through to a sleep centre for further study. Finally, some useful resources. So there was a great article published, Expert Consensus on Recommendations for Sleep and the Athlete, top article, and some really useful podcasts here. And then also, as I kind of previously mentioned, the sleepcouncil.org and the National Sleep Foundation, which is an American organisation. Both of those websites have some really useful information on sleep, sleep hygiene, sleep diaries, and sleep disorders. So for those of you who are still awake, do you have any questions? Are you going to come in, Darren?
Brilliant, thank you very much. So excellent, thank you very much, Jamie. There was loads of nuggets of gold in there. So despite popular belief, you're able to navigate around quite a tricky topic there, so well done. There's loads of great questions that are coming in here. So we'll start with a common theme there was asking about sleep trackers. So there's lots of stuff in the media now about Aura rings and the Whoop strap, Whoop headbands, halos. So about kind of if there's any evidence or good practice for sleep habits trackers.
Yeah, so the evidence on more of the commercial sleep trackers, my understanding is that they're good at telling kind of total sleep time or time in bed. If you've got your Fitbit or you've got your Apple Watch and you're looking at how long you spent in each sleep stage of sleep, like that is not reliable at all. The key thing that you're looking out for is, or the key things that they're actually validated against are how long do you spend in bed. There's also some interesting work around they measured people's sleep with actual polysomnography, the gold standard, and also a Fitbit. And regardless of the quality of sleep that the individual had, they toyed around with how much the Fitbit told the person they slept. And even if they slept well and the Fitbit said you slept rubbish, it had an actual impact on their perceived quality of sleep. So if the Fitbit said you had a bad night's sleep, you thought you had a bad night's sleep regardless of whether you actually had a good or bad night's sleep. So I guess, what am I saying here? They can be useful to track the time in bed, and they can be useful if we're working with teams, perhaps to start a conversation around sleep. But if we're working with individuals and we know that perhaps they're particularly anxious individuals, that they usually get stressed about various things, we're probably, by putting a sleep tracker, we're probably just giving them another thing to stress about, and another thing which is going to actually negatively impact on their sleep rather than help.
That's spot on. Yeah,
that's probably where I'd land on that.
Definitely quite in line with my biases as well, in terms of the fact that in that early morning state, if you're constantly asking people about questions and almost in that subconscious state, you're probably putting an extra stressor on their mind. So excellent. Have you come across any kind of outcome measures that people tend to use from the sleep perspective?
Yeah, so there's quite a few. There's the Pittsburgh Sleep Quality Index, I believe it's called. That's quite good, highly validated. Oh, and there's one in, I forget what it's called. I think it's like the Athlete Specific Sleep Questionnaire. But in that final article which I shared, the recommendation, the expert consensus for 2021 on sleep and the athlete, if you are working with athletic populations, they cite the questionnaire in there. And I think sleep questionnaires can be a useful conversation starter for our clients, but probably for most people, a sleep diary is probably the best thing, and you'll get so much more information from seeing a sleep diary, and probably the information will be much more useful than perhaps a normal sleep questionnaire would be. Someone may argue against that.
Yeah. No, spot on. And that was a good question in there in terms of so if we kind of miss sleep for any reason, so I believe it's kind of alluding to sleep banking. So does your body have to make up those lost hours at some point?
So if we think about sleep pressure, if we have less quantity or quality of sleep on a night, we're carrying that sleep debt into the next day. So our sleep pressure is likely going to be higher. Our sleep latency may reduce that next night. We may find it easier to sleep. We may sleep for longer. However, kind of that study I showed around those who had their participants who had their sleep restricted for 7 nights, and then they had those 3 recovery nights. Even after those recovery nights, performance was still reduced. So it can take perhaps a period of time, if we're not getting the quality of sleep that we need as an individual, to return up to our baseline level of performance. What you kind of, I don't know whether there was 2 kind of questions in there that you talked about sleep banking. So there's a concept where we can bank sleep early. So and this may be helpful. So if we're perhaps going for an interview, or we've got a competition, and we know that actually the night before we're going to really struggle to sleep because we've got all those thoughts around, we want to do well, we want to perform. I had some sleep pressure last night around, like, what if I have a power cut? I want to do a good talk, and that reduced my sleep quality and quantity. So if we know we're approaching a period where our sleep's going to wobble, then we can bank our sleep earlier, so extend our sleep when it may be a bit. So this talk was Tuesday. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I'd had an extra couple of hours or an extra hour or so. I'm going to come into last night feeling loads more refreshed, and it might not affect me as much than if I was already fatigued.
Mm-hmm.
And there is some evidence around sleep banking, and if we bank our sleep early, we're able to perform at higher levels when we are deprived of sleep at that next period, if that makes sense.
Excellent, spot on. So the rest of the questions, we'll have time for one more. This seemed to be a bit more around kind of your sleep habits and routines. So kind of obviously from a behavior change point of view, is it in line with other behavior change kind of evidence and research out there about timeframes to implement these changes?
Really good question. I'm not sure whether there's. I'm not aware of. I see no reason why it would be any different than other behaviour change approaches. Yeah, not sure on that one.
Hold on. Easy final question then.
Yeah.
So I think some of the research is around people theorise that it was always the 21 days, but I think more recently, based on some of the James Clear atomic habits, it's a bit more around your 66 days to invoke kind of consistent behaviour change. So whether that carries over to sleep or not, if anyone wants to go and research, happily. Yeah. So the slides will be available, and this is being recorded as well, and will be available on the Facebook page and on the YouTube page for anyone who's asking. And I suppose better hand over before we see the show. But that's been absolutely wonderful. Thank you very much, Jamie. I'm sure everyone else has gotten loads of insightful tips that they can bring into clinic tomorrow. And thank you very much.
Awesome. Thanks very much, everyone. And thanks, Darren.
All right. All the best. Off to slumber. Hopefully you'll be staying with us. So next, what we have is I'll hand over to Laura to introduce our next speaker. And good time.
Brilliant. Thanks, Darren, and thanks, Jamie. Really great talk there. It now gives me a great pleasure to introduce our second speaker of the evening, Graham Foreman. Graham is a performance psychologist, coach and mentor, and he's got over 25 years experience working within education, business and sport. I'm a little bit biased here because I've worked with Graham previously in my old job role, but I'm really excited for his talk tonight. He's going to be talking about creating positive mindsets and developing emotionally intelligent habits that we can use both in our own lives but also with our patients as well. Please, throughout the talk, use the Q&A box to put any discussion points or questions that you would like Graham to come to at the end of his presentation. Without further ado, Graham, over to you.
Thanks, Laura. Can you just give me a little thumbs up so you can hear me okay?
Yeah, spot on.
Lovely. Cheers, guys. Jamie, thank you very much for that. Although I'm now feeling that I'm in sleep zone, I need a lot more sleep and I shouldn't necessarily be drinking my cup of coffee. But we're going to get through this because actually tonight's about trying to learn how to win in life a little bit more. So as a little bit background on myself, former tennis player, played in the States for 4 years, had 2 major shoulder operations, which you guys will probably be quite interested in. One done actually locally by Mr. Bayliss in terms of a rotator cuff, and a variety of other sports injuries, which there's too many to mention right now. So tonight's session, I wanted to kind of have a little look at how do we identify winning in life, and is that possible to do that? There's a few people here that I've worked with, and because I've only got a certain period of time to get through, let's try to make sure that we cover everything as quickly as we possibly can. So my first slide is about congratulations. Congratulations for you guys being here. This is certainly the start of you getting better. And one of the things that I see with the majority of people I work with is that they spend so much time helping everybody else that they forget completely about helping themselves. And that's the one thing that we want to kind of have a look at. So congratulations for you being here. I know you're in that sleep zone already, so we've got about a 30-minute window to fast forward and see if we can pick up your emotions, and we can see how you guys are doing as well. I am going to make it a little bit interactive, so there's going to be some stuff that I ask you guys to do, so we'll see how that goes as well. It'll be the first time we've done this in a little Zoom session. So 30 minutes to define winning in life, which I thought would be dead easy. So I should just show you a picture of my helicopter, the Ferrari, and also the mansion on the top of the hill. But then I thought, well, I don't necessarily have a helicopter, and the mansion is probably not as big as I would like, and the Ferrari is probably not as fast as I would like either. So how am I winning in life, and who am I to talk to you guys about winning in life? Well, I guess it comes down to the interpretation, doesn't it, and what that is. So if you guys in your chat, can you just kind of type yes or no if you're winning in life? All right, excellent. So most people have said yes, that today was a good day. That's always a good start, because that means that you should be all excited about listening to my 30 minutes. Some of you said maybe yes, maybe no, or sometimes yes, sometimes no. And that's a really good point, and we'll certainly have a little look at that as well. So in terms of detail, because the yes and no thing is how am I defining winning? Just defining it as a word, are we winning in life? Yes or no? Did I win today? Yes or no? Let's have a little bit detailed for that. So can you just add in why you think you won today? Just stick it in the chat again. Good. That's an interesting one, Joan. Thank you very much. I survived. Ate the Frog. I hope that was the book that you were reading and not necessarily actually the real frog in the back garden. Guys, thank you very much for that. Great sharing. Love that. So yes and no, and also some detail as well. Some detail around some personal goals, some details just around happiness and health. And then again, that's one of the things that we have to understand in terms of that definition. I'm glad there's a couple of Christmas trees up. You might have just seen there's a little Santa and there's a little Christmas tree just behind me, just looking after me right now. And I guess one of the things that we should always talk about is this ideal world versus real world concept. And listening to Jamie about that sleep was really interesting, because I have a 6-year-old daughter who hasn't slept for 6 years. So how am I winning without all of that sleep that I need? And actually, am I on my A game as well? And that's what I wanted to talk about a little bit with you guys. So the session is going to be about how do I learn to win every day? And one of that's certainly about defining what that winning is. But that relationship between psychology and physiology and how you guys are feeling is going to be really important for you. So today, if you weren't winning in life, you might have been on that left-hand quadrant of maybe some negative emotions, either at a high arousal level or a low arousal level. And I'm sure you felt there, not necessarily today, but over the last week or over the last year. And it's been a very difficult year. And to put things into context about winning in life, because my daughter is in isolation, in shielding, we've been in the house for 177 days this year. So am I winning in life? Well, actually, that depends on the definition, doesn't it? So if I am winning in life, then maybe I'm sitting there. Maybe I'm sitting there and I'm cool under pressure. I'm in control. I'm pretty relaxed right now. And I'm in a peaceful state. So therefore, there's a correlation between my psychology and my physiology. And that will have a huge element on performance as well. If I'm looking on game day from a world of sport, or in terms of a big business meeting, or having to work with a huge client list, then maybe I need to be a little bit higher arousal level. Maybe I need to be a bit more dynamic, a bit more passionate, confident, connected. And how does that psychology and physiology help my performance? So there's some things that we need to think of. We can't just isolate from one area to the other. There's this huge correlation where they have to map and they have to join each other. Otherwise, we're a different species to the one that I think we are right now. Okay, so next little activity for you guys to do is the fact that if we're talking about winning in life, we have to have a look at what your performance is and where is your performance and how much effort are you having to put into your performance. So we'll find that if you're looking at the graph, there's this performance and effort part of the graph, but also there's an increasing task difficulty. So we're quite comfortable and quite happy taking on new tasks to a certain level. And then at a certain level, then we'll make the decision that, yeah, maybe this is too much effort. And if it's too much effort, then I might get distracted. So I might get distracted by, oh, I'm feeling a little bit hungry right now, or there's some other things that I need to do. Or I might just get completely disillusioned and think, yeah, this is a waste of time. Why am I spending my Tuesday night listening to Graham and doing this? I'm just not interested. So I want to do a little activity with you in terms of just finding out how you're currently feeling right now. And actually, how do you feel at the end of this little task? And one of the things that I'm really conscious of when I'm working with individuals, and bearing in mind that the type of people that I get to work with, and I'm fortunate to work with, is that there's a huge lack of awareness, of actually the reality. So what we do is we put on little masks and we walk out the door and we deliver to the audience that we're working with on that particular day. But is that really me? Is that a true perception of who I really am? So I want you guys to have a think about how you're feeling right now and based on those 4 quadrants that I just showed you. And then we're going to do a little task. So can you guys just put in the chat that you're happy to do a little task? Just say yes. If you say no, it's all right. It doesn't matter. I'm going to make you do it anyway. But if you say yes, then actually it means if anything goes wrong and you don't feel very comfortable and you're unhappy at the end of my session, that you guys admitted that you wanted to do it in the first place. Fab, guys, thank you very much for that. Here we go. All right, it's a dead easy task. So what I'm going to get you guys to do is we're just going to have a little letter transformational activity. So I'm going to give you the letter, and all you have to do is you have to think 4 letters ahead. So let me give you an example. If I said to you A, then you have to think A plus 4. So that's B, C, D, and then E is the 4th letter. If I say L, then we go M, N, O, P is the 4th letter. So I'm just going to get you to do that. I'm going to see how quick you are, your response, and putting it into the chat. And I'm going to keep it pretty quick. And I'm going to keep it pretty much in terms of giving you one and then moving on to the next one, because I want to see, does pressure change anything in terms of your physiological response, but also your psychological stimulus as well. Now, remember the 3 things which I said. If it gets a little bit too tricky, and we have to think, well, do I need to exert any more effort into this activity? You might start to think, great, I love this. This is really exciting. I'm thinking, I'm working, and actually I'm improving my ability by improving the amount of energy and effort that I'm putting in. Some of you guys will just go, yeah, this is not a great task. I'm bored with this right now, and get disillusioned or completely drop out. So let's just have a little look. And after 1, I might do 2 letters. So if I do 2 letters, it's going to be AL. Plus 4, so you have to go A plus 4 and then L plus 4. What you can't do in the chat is actually type them one at a time. You have to think of both of them and then add them in. And then it might get a little bit trickier and it might get a little bit tougher. So we're just going to do this for not even a minute, and I'm going to rush through this because I want to see how quickly you can do this task, manage it, and whether it has an effect on your emotions and your response as well. So here we go. L plus 4. Please put your answer in your chat. Nice, very good. Okay, next one. SK plus 4. You need 2 answers right now. We're taking a little bit longer to do this one. Oh, a couple of wrong answers as well. All right, don't get distracted. Remember, it's not getting too tough yet. Excellent, good. And the answer is WO. So if you got that wrong, well, actually, did you lose distraction already? Did you get a little bit kind of not interested in this, or were you just not concentrated, or not very good at the alphabet? Do you need more effort to put involved in this? Okay, now we're going to go up to 3. OTL plus 4 for all of them. Let's see what we got. So it should be taking you a little bit longer to work it out. If you're having to listen to me now, that you might be losing a little bit of concentration. That might change your emotional state. Excellent. Now we're starting to work this out a little bit. Still a few changing answers. Okay, SXP, if you did that, very good. Last one, here we go. ECLA, now you've got 4. You've now got to get rid of something in that short-term memory to replace it with the answer. Okay, good, taking a little bit longer. Again, some errors there. Fab. Okay, some interesting answers. An error due to typing. Love that. That's usually my mistake. Fab. Okay, so what we found there is even through that little task, by increasing a little task difficulty, there's a range of answers. There's a range of answers, but there's also a range of feeling as well. So who, and again, if you can just type in your chat there, who got really excited about the extra effort as we went through? Who started to think, oh, this is the worst task, Graham, on a Tuesday night. I can't believe I've had a day at work and you're making me do this, and just got completely disinterested. Who got a little bit distracted right now? So one of those 3 probably came on board with you guys. And yes, you might cheat as well. Nice. I'm glad you got annoyed, Carol. Apologies that you did get annoyed, but I'm quite glad that you got annoyed and anxious as well, because actually, if I slide onto this slide again, I want you to start to think about, did you make any transitional change in your emotions from where you were literally 2 to 3 minutes ago to where you're feeling right now? So again, just type in your chat, where are you feeling right now? If you have to pick one of those words on those quadrants, where are you feeling? Okay, thanks, Pete. Nice and positive, good. Okay, Debbie's exhausted. Debbie, do not drink any coffee if you're exhausted, not this late at night. Got to take on board some learning from Jamie. Excellent, brilliant. Guys, thank you very much for that in terms of that engagement. What that does show you is whatever we do in terms of our work, it has a massive effect on us from a psychological and a physiological point of view. And we have to make this distinction between, do I need to put this effort in, or do I want to put this effort in? So we've also got to understand that our clients, that who we work with, they have to look at us in terms of our performance level. They have to see, whether I'm on my A game. If you're working with other people, so in the world of sport, for example, I have to work with the coaches as well as the players to try to find their A game. And it's dead easy to find the A game in the world of sport. I want you guys to start to think about, what is your A game? So your A game is not necessarily always looking after your clients. Your A game is maybe looking after you. And you have to look after yourself first before you can have a look after them. So in the world of sport, dead easy to define the A game. So the A game in sport looks pretty much like this. So I want to play well, but I want to win. So I'm quite happy with the process, but at the end of the day, I want to win. So the outcome has to be there. So that is my ideal scenario: play well and I win. I'm quite comfortable playing poorly as long as I win, because actually that's what I get paid for in the world of sport, is an outcome. It's about the result. The result means everything. So therefore I have to win. So I'm quite happy playing poorly and therefore winning. Will I take that one? So if I'm looking at the fact that actually it's about me and my ability, am I comfortable playing at my ability level and playing well, but losing? So at my age right now, playing Roger Federer, I'm probably not going to win many matches against Roger Federer, but I could still play the best that I can play. So if I play to my best ability and I play well and I lose, should I not consider that to be a win? Because I've played at my ability level, but I've lost. And if we're judging my winning in life, my winning in sport, my A game on my outcome, probably I'm never going to beat Roger Federer. So therefore, that's going to be a bit of an interesting one from a psychological point of view. How am I going to feel after that? None of us probably want to be there. We probably don't want to play poorly and lose. That's process-wise I'm losing, outcome-wise I'm losing, actually that's going to have a huge psychological effect on me. Physiologically, it's probably not going to make me feel good, and therefore actually we know that there's going to be a lot of chemicals, a lot of hormones, a lot of negativity based around our arousal states that could put us in a spiral of emotional or lack of emotional intelligence. But sport throws out some weird things. So actually I can do one of all four of those and just draw. So how do I feel about that? Well, I played well, but I drew. There's no outcome. Or is drawing the outcome? So my thought is always that we have to redefine this A game. We have to look at it from a completely different angle. So I like that quote from Mandela, which is, I never lose, I either win or learn. I'm just not sure we agree with that and whether we use it. It's a really nice quote. It's one of those little quotes that we'll always throw out to our kids or to our friends or colleagues. Don't worry about it. It's all right. You played well. Did you learn? Did you improve? Well, yeah, but I lost. I lost. Where is my connection? Where is my emotional connection to it? So we have to look at how do we define that and how do we change that a little bit. So again, let's just use this chat, seeing that you guys are active and I'm keeping you awake a little bit, or you have got some coffee next to you. Who wants that mansion? Who would like to live in a mansion like that? Just to, yes or no? Quick as you can. No? Okay. All right, some yeses, some no's. I'm surprised at the no's. Looks like a really nice house to me. I like that. And let's challenge you, the ones who said yes then. If I said you could live in that mansion, but it was at the top of the hill, would you still say yes? So for those people who couldn't be bothered to clean it, Lisa, if you've got that much money, just got to clean it in, you'll be fine. Sure, you'll be fine. Would you still have the mansion if it was at the top of the hill? If I said to you, that is yours, I'm giving it to you, you have a cleaner, you have a chef, it's fine, but it's at the top of the hill. So all of a sudden, if we go back to the graph that I showed you before, is do I need to make a little bit more effort to get up to the top of the hill to my mansion? Well, that's going to be determined by some other variables, isn't it? So if I said to you, right, mansion, top of the hill, but you can take the Ferrari. There's a Ferrari, you can take it. Do you still want it? Would you still take it? And I think most people would probably say, yeah, can I have the Ferrari and the mansion? Absolutely. Just the car? Joan, you can have just the car. That's absolutely fine. What about if I said you have to take the donkey? No car. Does that change things? Does that change a little bit? Because actually, yeah, do I want to sit on that donkey? That's a lot of effort to sit on the donkey. It's going to be a little bit more bumpy than the Ferrari. It's going to probably be a little bit cold, especially during the winter months. Not quite sure about that. And then if I slightly change it again, say, well, actually, no car, no donkey, you're going to have to walk. You're going to have to walk up that mountain every day, down the mountain every day to go to work. You know, you're going to have to carry your bag. It's going to be a lot of effort, a lot of physical exertion. You're going to probably be a little bit tired. You know, take on board some of Jamie's points and get some extra sleep. It's going to be pretty tough to do that. So all of a sudden we change our thought processes. And one of the things which I spend a lot of time with in terms of the people that I work with is starting to identify, defining that life and how do we get to learn? Because if we take on board Mandela's quote about learning, then actually the donkey, the person, the car, it doesn't matter. At the top of the mountain is still the end task. At the top of the mountain is still the end outcome. How I get up the mountain is going to be my journey. It's going to be my choice in terms of how I do that. You know, and maybe I learned that there's a quicker way up the mountain. There's a quicker route. Or maybe I learned something else. So we have to start to look at how do we define it and how do we change it and how do we improve it. And for you guys to go to the next level, in fact, for all of us to go to the next level, I need to have a next level version of myself. I need to find my A game at the next level. And what we need to do is actually do something about that. And in performance psychology, for me, people talk about it being a pink and fluffy thing. It's the most single-minded action that I think you can have is in the world of performance psychology. Because knowledge is not enough. We all know that if we go to the gym, it makes us feel healthier, we get fitter, we lose some weight, we put on muscle. We all know that if I don't eat a kebab, then actually that's going to be healthier for me than if I eat the kebab. We all know that. The knowledge is there. No matter how much research I could show you, you would turn around and go, yeah, I understand that, Greg. I know from Jamie's little presentation there that I need a certain amount of sleep. I have a 6-year-old child who doesn't sleep. So there's a reality there versus the ideal world of what's going on and what I would like it to be. Yes, I'd like the mansion and the Ferrari. Ideal world, is that realistic? So I have to work on those processes. So how do I look at defining that, and what do I need to do in order for me to get better at the next level? And how do I start to define, how do I win in life? So I wanted to just give you 3 quick things. Again, just in terms of, we have a short window to complete tonight's session. I wanted to give you 3 things in terms of, 1, you understanding your emotional connection to a psychological event, and also some things that might help in terms of getting you to the next level. So the first one, which I wanted to have a look at, is clarity. For me, it's the number 1 thing. The awareness of who you are and who you want to be is vital to your journey. Whether you're taking the donkey, whether you're walking, or whether you're taking the Ferrari. If you don't know where you're going and why you're going there, then actually it's gonna end up playing poorly and losing. At some stage, you might get some quick wins, but at some stage, you're not going to get to where you want to be. You'll sit there with your cup of coffee on the balcony and think, yeah, I just didn't get to go where I wanted to go. But there was no clarity. So without clarity, we just have confusion. So for me, the 3 top things about clarity is defining what is meaningful to you. And I don't mean the job, and I don't mean the Ferrari, and I don't mean the donkey or the mansion. I mean, what is really meaningful to you? What are you really about as an individual? And then I would also always say complete a life assessment. So, and the GF10 programs that we work with individuals in terms of our individual coaching programs, we start to look at, what is that life assessment? What do you really look for? What are you really striving to achieve in your individual life? And then trying to define your purpose. We forget about these things. What we do is we go to work and we help people and we support people. We fix people in terms of maybe some injuries, or we fix their forehand, or we fix, their business, whatever we're trying to support and help them with. Sometimes we fix it. But actually, this is not a broken thing, because actually there's no clarity. So defining your purpose is really important in order to map that against what is meaningful to you. The second thing is the morning. And for me, mornings are so vital in terms of winning in life, because that's about me and determining how I want to feel. Now, you've all heard the adage, oh, Graham just got out of bed the wrong way today. He's so grumpy and he's so moody. And I don't get that. The wife gets out of bed the left-hand side. I get out of bed the right-hand side. It's the same. I always get out of bed the same side. So actually, I can't get out of bed the wrong side unless I kind of throw her out of the bed a little bit. So what are they really saying by you got out of bed the wrong way? Well, actually, it probably means about how you feel. It probably means about your psychology. And for me, we have to start the day right. What am I looking forward to today? How do I want to feel today? Okay, so there's some really key questions that you can ask yourself tomorrow, which will make a difference. So there's a lot of research out there that says that actually, if I wake up and the first thing I do is stick the telly on, or I look at Facebook or Instagram or anything like that, and the world's blowing up and there's a volcano here and there's a death here and somebody else has, had an issue there, that has a negative effect on me straight away. So by the time I get out of bed, I absolutely have got out of the bed the wrong way. So I need to work on that, and I need to plan on getting out of bed the right way. So also some real good research out there regarding physical activity. And I have a 2 option on my physical activity on the morning. If I've got a lot of clients, or I need to get to work quickly, or I'm even doing the school run, then one of the things I need to do is very short time. So I'll just do 10 press-ups, pretty quickly, switch on. How do I want to feel today? What am I looking forward to today? Who's my favorite client today? Great. I've got a really bad day, but who's my number 1 client? Can't wait till that 2 o'clock appointment. Brilliant. It gives me some positive thought processes. Okay. If I've got a little bit more time, I might go for a little jog, a little run, and maybe a little cool down as well, a little bit of a stretch. At my age, I need to stretch a little bit more than I probably should. And then what I want to do is I want to dictate my energy to the world. I don't want the world to dictate their energy on me. So actually, if somebody's died and that's the first thing, I'm going to feel negative. That's their energy being dictated to me. I want to bring the energy. I want to bring the fun. That's my choice. And if you guys haven't planned that, you need to start planning that into your morning activities a little bit as well. And I also put a little cup of coffee there as well, because there's no harm in a nice cup of coffee. And then the last thing I wanted to share with you guys is this reference point. We have to measure the reference point appropriately. So this is a thing where we're not necessarily honest with ourselves. One of the hardest things to do in life is to be 100% completely honest with yourself, because you won't like it. You won't like the fact that, oh my God, I'm a little bit older than I used to be on that picture, and I probably don't hit my backhand as well as I did on that picture. So what is my reference point? Well, my reference point used to always be as a tennis player. So everybody says, Graham, are you still playing tennis? Well, yeah, not for a long time now. But they see me as a tennis player, and I define myself as a tennis player at some stage. So what does that mean? When people start to talk about that and I start to identify as a tennis player, then I still probably think that I can play like that. So my performance levels should be as good as Roger Federer. Now that's way out. If you have a look at me right now and you have a look at that picture, then you know that that is way out as my reference point. My real reference point is probably a little bit more like that. A little bit older, a little bit less hair, a little bit stiffer. Technically it's probably not as good as it used to be. So therefore, all of a sudden I have to change my reference point. So am I a tennis player? Am I defining myself as a tennis player, or am I just a person that used to play tennis? So I redefine the reference point. And if we look at this reference point from a work point of view, then what we can see is the fact that actually this is probably right. This is me with Derek Redmond, as you know, former Olympian, and Graham Weeks from Durham Cricket, who I do a lot of work with. And you'll find that actually my reference point is more like that. It's certainly a little bit like that in my head. That's Tom Brady, who plays for New England Patriots. So I'd like to think I'm as cool as him, but he just moved and there's the new quarterback at New England Patriots. And I'm certainly not that cool. So the reference point in the middle is probably close to where I am. So I just wanted to finish with then, how do we look at measuring that? And for me, measuring that is the most important thing that you guys can do in terms of that change process. So the 31st of December every year, I measure how the year went. I look at my life from a KPI point of view. And I just want to give you one example. So a couple of years ago, I was working with all of the partners that I work with and clients that I work with. And I actually measured my winning in life based on the fact that 5 people who had been to see me that year actually didn't want to be here anymore. They wanted to commit suicide and not be here. So I measured my life based on the fact that actually all 5 were there on the 31st of December that year. That was my winning in life that year. So for you guys, what I wanted to do is to say, well, actually, what is next? So I've got a little program that you guys can join if you want. It is 4 free sessions. They're not free. They're really expensive because it takes your time and your effort and your commitment to do them. So you guys can do that if you just put your email addresses in the chat, and the guys will pick that up and send them to me. And then I'm also doing a little charity event for Christmas dinners this year to give some kids some Christmas dinners who may not actually get a Christmas dinner. And I've got a bunch of people around the world who are running 100 miles in 100 months. So I thought that if you guys were interested, if you donated to that Just Giving page for Christmas dinners, then what we will do is that if you donate £25 and use the code GFIS Coaching and Graham on there, then whoever, and this is only for tonight and it's only with you guys, then I will do a one-to-one coaching program. We'll pull out of a hat a lucky winner, and whoever wins it gets a one-to-one 12-month coaching program with me worth over £1,500. If you're interested, please do that. If you're not interested in the coaching program, it's such a good cause anyway, giving somebody a Christmas dinner on Christmas Day, especially for a young child who might not get one. Guys, thank you very much for listening. That is winning in life, and that's also helping some other people as well. If you've got any questions, please do so. And you can contact me on all of that social media stuff there. Laura, I am normally late. Sorry.
It wasn't too bad, Graham. Only a few minutes over.
Thanks.
So, and thanks for that talk. That was brilliant. And thank you to everyone for all that great interaction as well throughout the whole thing. That was really good to see. And Graham, we've got loads of emails coming through that are all wanting to sign up to the Nudge programme. So that's fantastic. And let's have a look. So questions for yourself. First one, how do you approach mindset with patients who think the topic is a bit too airy-fairy?
Yeah, I love that. A little bit airy,
Yeah.
a little pink and fluffy.
Yeah.
For me, it has to come down to getting the right action. So I guess discussing the question first and foremost is finding out about the individual person. So we do a lot of psychometric assessments because I think it's really important to understand the personality of the person and how I then need to engage with them. So if it's somebody who's a little bit more of a dominant characteristic, then I'm quite comfortable saying, listen, you need to do this. These are the things that you need to work on, because that's how they will translate it. And I think when we're dealing with people, it's all about language, and it's the translation of language. Now, sometimes we all mean the same thing. It's just the fact that, Laura, you're speaking in French and I speak in Swedish, and therefore we've lost the translation. So as long as I know the individual, and the more I know about them, the more I know how they want to receive the information, I can start giving it into the language that they want. Somebody who likes things a little bit more pink and fluffy, then maybe I'll tell them a little bit of a story. And the story will lead to the action, but everything has to be about an action. If you don't do anything, you've just had a cup of coffee and a chat with somebody. Now, I'm sure you guys have just met me tonight, and hopefully some of you will want to come and have a coffee and a chat with me, but I'm sure you've also got better friends and better family members who you'd rather have a chat and a coffee with. So I think for me, it's about the individual, knowing them, and then starting to actually address it in a way that suits them in the environment that they're in, but also the time frame that they're in as well. They might not be ready for it. So therefore you have to work around it a little bit. But as you're working around it, what you're doing is you're drip feeding actions into them all of the time. And the nudge is very much like that. It's about getting you ready to move to the next level. And, you know, a lot of people just kind of hover a little bit, you know, for periods of their life, whether it's in relationships, whether it's in jobs, whether it's in sport. And actually the nudge is something that kickstart you to that next level again.
Yeah, brilliant, fantastic. And another question we've got, can you recommend any books or resources to go and do some further reading on around this topic?
Wow, there's a million and one. One of my favorite books, and I'm going to tell you a story as well, because I'm a high I personality trait, so you know I tell stories. One of my favorite books, which I still like, which I pull out from time to time, is a book called The Slight Edge. The Slight Edge is about making these, you know, these small changes, but doing it daily, so that we build up this massive effect over a period of time. But I do a lot of work with Northumbria Police, and one of the guys at Northumbria Police came up to me and he said, Graham, I've read 120 self-help books and personal development books, and nothing's happening to me. I'm not getting any better. So I just simply said, what have you done? And he said, Graham, I've read 120 self-help books. So we've got to understand that sometimes knowledge is not enough, which is what I was saying earlier. So pick a book, take one thing out of the book, and then actually go and do it. You have to action it. You have to take a step forward. The book itself will not make you feel better, and it'll certainly not change you. The action is the stuff that will help you.
Yeah, definitely. And how often do you open up conversations around winning on life with non-athletes or non-sporty people? And do you find that there's much of a difference between, you know, people that are in elite sports and then your average Joe Bloggs on the street?
Yeah, business and sport go hand in hand. So the chief execs and the leadership people that I work with, absolutely, they're the same as sports people. They're at a performance level. They've got outcomes that they want to hit, and they're very driven, a lot of them. So therefore, actually, there's a lot of similarities between sport and business. And sport is used quite often as a metaphor to really develop individuals within the world of business as well. Teachers and people in education are slightly different, because we almost have this feeling that I don't need a coach anymore. Because I'm a teacher and because I'm a lecturer, and I lectured for 8 years, and you know, you get this feeling in the fact that I'm in this institution and I'm surrounded by a lot of research, and therefore actually I can look after everybody else, but I forget to look after myself. So teachers are a difficult one, and we've got a GT10 program, which is exactly the same as the coaching program for business and sport, but it's purely teacher orientated. And when I talk about teachers, lecturers, people in education, because they get stuck a little bit, I guess, a little bit more often than other people. When you're dealing with sports people, there's always an outcome, whether it's a 4-year Olympic cycle, whether it's a Commonwealth Games, whether it's a World Championships, there's always something there. You know, you just go from year to year, you know, in terms of education systems, and we have to break that mold a little bit and start them thinking about themselves. Now, that's always a difficult conversation for them to have that honest reflection point.
Brilliant. Thank you, Graham. And loads of great learning points there. Hopefully everyone can take something away from that. So thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Will you keep a copy of all of the emails and send them over to me?
Yes, yep, absolutely, we will do.
And I'm happy for everybody to have my slides, as I said earlier.
Yeah, brilliant. We'll get them sent out for anybody that's wanting the slides. A copy, we'll circulate those. And also the whole thing's being recorded, and that'll be put up on the YouTube channel. And then Darren, would you like to come back on and we can
Most certainly, the double teams. What a great session. So what's your kind of any takeaways that you've come across, Laura? I'll let you have a little think about that one.
Yeah, so I think kind of coming back to what's meaningful for you or the individual that you're working with, especially at this current time with COVID. I think a lot of people are probably a little bit in limbo with their careers, or potentially things haven't gone the way that they wanted to this year. So just always bringing back that mindset to actually what's important for you or the patient or the individual that you're working with is really, really key, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Excellent. So we have some exciting news as well. We also have the winner of our continuing professional development fund. So some funds that we've dedicated and signed and ring fenced for one of the lucky NEMS members. We have, drum roll please. The winner is Chris Day. So he's put in an application, deadline day. So it was squeaky bum time, but he got it in there. And so he's getting some money put forward for a integrating imaging 3-day course. So congratulations, Chris. That'll hopefully be an early Christmas present for you. And excellent. I think that's pretty much us, but we do have a feedback form in the chat. So please fill it in. Obviously we want to improve these sessions and hopefully continue on providing top quality CPD to all of you dedicated professionals on a Tuesday evening. Any closing comments, Laura?
No, just a big thank you to everybody that's stuck with us and all of the interactions throughout. It's been fantastic, and we look forward to seeing you at the next event.
Excellent. I think that's us. Good night, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. All the best.
Take care, everyone.